Hey, how's it going, everybody? So today I wanted to talk about Dirt 5. So Dirt 5 is a racing game from Codemasters that was released in November of last year, and it was also just recently added to Xbox Game Pass, which was why I ended up playing it, and yeah, so let's get into it. So the Dirt series isn't something that I've ever really kept up with too much. I think I've played a little bit of Dirt 4 and Dirt Rally 2.0, but not a ton of them. I have always been a big fan of racing games though. I'm no expert and I definitely don't think I'm even very good at these games, but they are always a ton of fun, so when I saw that this was on Game Pass, I immediately installed it and jumped into it, and I honestly had a really great time with it. This kind of felt like the perfect lazy day type of game, at least, if you're someone that does enjoy racing games. It was really easy and fast to jump into, and it didn't really have any kind of a steep learning curve. I will say though that it doesn't actually help you out at all, so maybe you can look at that as a downside, but as this is a sequel to many other games in the series, I think it's kind of expected for people that are playing this game to kind of know all the controls already. But even saying that, through some quick experimenting with the buttons, it's pretty simple to get a hang of, of what buttons do what, and most of all, it was nice to just kind of get a feel of how all these cars move. Because what you are going to be dealing with a lot here are all the different road conditions and the different environments and weather elements, and it not only made it more challenging to drive in and to race in, but it was also just extremely cool to look at visually. There were times when it was quite hard to see things all the time very clearly, but I always looked at that as a plus because it obviously was adding something to these races, and it kept them fresh as you went through these new tracks. And I also really enjoyed the look and the backdrop of some of these locations. This did feel like a very next-gen game in terms of the graphics and also with the performance, because I never noticed any kind of big technical issues here, even with all the moving parts going on at times. And that was a huge relief, at least for me, because I have had some issues with some games so far on the Series X, and I've still kind of just been wondering if that's an issue with my Xbox or these games, and I still don't know for sure, but from how well this game did run, it gives me some hope that my Xbox should be fine, and maybe I guess some of the games I've been playing were just not faring too well. As for the thing that I didn't really love, it was mostly just the atmosphere and the energy of this game while these races were going on. There might be a setting to change these things, but I was kind of wanting some more music to be playing, or maybe some of the live announcers to talk more during these races. I don't even know if there were any live announcing, and it's possible that could have been annoying more so than enjoyable, but I just found that I did these races race after race in campaign mode that it eventually did start to feel just a little repetitive, in the sense that all I was really hearing were these car engines. And that might not bother you too much. It's also really simple just to kind of put on some music from another source while you're playing this, or something like that, and so that's not necessarily a big issue, but it was the one thing that I wanted to comment on. But again, that being said, there are a ton of games that I enjoy playing while having some other audio going on in the background, like a podcast, or having a Twitch stream on, or whatever it might be, and just kind of playing the game as something to do rather than it being my main focus. And this game works perfectly for that. I don't know if that sounds bad or not, but I don't think that it is. For example, Rocket League has been one of my favorite games for years now, and I think most of that has to do with the fact that I can kind of just get lost in playing it even in competitive mode without really having to put all my attention to it, so that I can play, some movies in the background or whatever it might be that I'm watching or listening to in the background. And that is basically the same thing with movies. There's a lot of these, quote-unquote background movies that you just kind of put on when you're doing something else, like homework or writing something, cleaning, just whatever it might be. And that's why I think this game was a perfect addition to Game Pass. Because honestly, my opinion on everything that I just said could have been completely different if I did have to pay retail price for this. And it's actually this game that got me thinking that maybe I shouldn't do that for any game. And I've been thinking about that in the past too, but I just don't think there's any way to know which games will eventually make their way to Game Pass, so it is a bit of a gamble in its own right. But at the very least, even if this wasn't on Game Pass, I'm sure the game is a bit cheaper to buy now than it was on opening week. So unless it's a surefire game that you have complete belief in, or you've just been super excited and hyped for it for a long time, there's probably no reason to get these games right away and right when they release, and kind of just wait for it to drop in price, or in the best case, have it be released on a platform like Game Pass, because this basically felt like a gift this weekend since I wasn't really in the mood for most of the games that I have, and this kind of just dropped into my lap, and it really picked up my spirits actually on an otherwise sort of boring day. I haven't even mentioned all the modes that you have in this game either. There's online matches that were kind of shoddy when I played them because not too many people were playing them, and it was glitching a bit inside the in the tracks in the races, but that was still fun. And of course, there's a pure arcade mode that lets you just enjoy the races with no added pressure of doing well, and also some really interesting user created tracks that I probably wouldn't spend too much time on, but it's still always a really nice feature to see in any game because it adds a lot more free content because of that, and it adds some longevity to the game as well. So all in all, I really just had a great time with this from the first moments of launching it, and as sad as it might sound or not, it kind of was my favorite part of the weekend so far. It's not the best racing game I've ever played by any means, but again, as a game that was just kind of gifted to the people that have Game Pass, this was a real treat, and I'm glad I went and checked the store to see that it was there in the first place. But yeah, you know, that's all I got for this one. I'm sure if you're someone that's played all of the Dirt games before, there's nothing that I really said here that you haven't heard already, and it's an arcade-style racing game, you know, and it's mostly what you would come to expect with that kind of a game. And if you're also a fan of racing games and you didn't pick this one up when it came out and you do have Game Pass, I think it's obviously a great one to check out. So thank you all so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're all having a great day out there, and I hope to catch you in the next video.